The DOM interface gives you the power to select elements. One of the methods that you can use for this is the getElementByID method. This method allows us to select elements by giving to it an ID. In my HTML documents, I have an H1 that has an ID of heading. Let's go to JavaScript and select this heading. Let's create a variable that will point to our element. Then to select the H1, we use the object document, then use the method getElementByID on it. Then let's give it the ID heading. Then let's console log the result. And now we have our H1. Great. When working with DOM elements, it is better to use console.dir to see what you can do with the elements. And now this element, this H1, has a lot of properties that we can access. For example, inner text returns the text of the H1. Let's console.dir h1.innerText. We can change this with JavaScript and it will be updated live. So let's give it another value. And now we could change the text with JavaScript. We can also add some styling to it. So let's console.dir the H1. And if we scroll down here, we have the style object. If you open it, we can see that it has all of the CSS properties that we can use. Let's change the border of this element. h1.style.border. Then we give it this value. And now we have borders. Let's also give it some padding with JavaScript. So we use h1.style.padding. Then we give it a value. And now we have paddings. Great. So with JavaScript, we could control this H1. Let's also give it a background color. So H1, style, background color, and now we'll choose a yellow color. And now we have a yellow background. Just like we could do it in the console, we can also write the code in the JavaScript file and it will work. So let's refresh. Then let's go to the JavaScript file and add a background color to the H1. And now it is working. Great. Now what if you want to change the H1 once we click on this button? Well, we can do it. Let's move to the text editor. So the first thing we need to do is to select the button. So for this we use var btn, then document.getElementByID, then we give it the ID of the button. So my btn is the ID of this button. And now let's console.dir this button. So great, it is working. We want to give to this H1 a background color once we click on this button. For that we need to listen for the click event. Let's see how we can do it. We first use the btn object, then call the addEventListener method. This method accepts two arguments. The first one is the type or name of the event. We want the click event, so let's add click here. Then the second argument is a callback. This callback will be executed once the event is triggered. So let's add a message, clicked. And now when we click on this button, we have the clicked message. This callback is being called each time we click on this button. Now what we have left to do is to take this code from here and put it inside the callback. When we first load our page, the H1 does not have a background color. And when we click on this button, we give to it a background color. Great. Let's add another button to remove the background. And also let's change the text here. And also let's change the ID. For the first button, we will give it an ID of add background. And to the second one, remove background. And also let's change the selector here and let's call it add background btn. Our first code is still working properly. Now let's move to the second button. Let's select it using document.getElementByID. Then let's console log the remove btn to see if we did it right. So great, we did not make a mistake. And now let's add an event listener. We will listen to the click event on the remove btn. So we target the button, then we add event listener, the click event, and we add the callback. Within the callback, we will remove the background color from the h1 by assigning an empty string to the background color property. So h1.style.background color, and we will give it an empty string. And now when we click on this button, we have the background. And when we click on this one, we remove the background. Great.